Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock the potentials and guide them to succeed. Today, I have another amazing guest, and it's always great listening to this person talk about real estate because she's so passionate about it. She is a real estate investor, a house flipping extraordinaire, and phenomenal renovator. And when she talks about her deals, her projects, it's always fun because there's so much top-notch energy there. When it comes to renovation and projects, she checks off the top three big things that all investors want to hear, and that is on time, within budget, and top-notch quality. So please welcome the amazing Cara Whiteway.
Thank you so much, Fong. Nice to be here today, and thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it's always great talking to you, and and also thank you for being here.
No problem.
For people who don't know exactly what you do, give us a quick kind of Cole's notes as to how you became this amazing house flipper.
Absolutely. So 5 years ago, I decided to resign from my six-figure job and pursue my passion for real estate. At that point, I had no idea that I was going to be getting into property flipping. At the time, my boyfriend, now husband, was a renovator, and it just seemed like kind of a natural progression for us. It was something I was always interested in the real estate market, and also, creating an atmosphere and a design sense for the homes was something I'd always had passion in my own homes, but I never knew how to make it into a business. So I was working a six-figure job, like I said, and super stressed out all the time. I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And we decided that we were going to buy a house. I used all of my own capital to purchase this home, all of my own capital to renovate this home. And we ended up actually barely breaking even on our first flip. So that was kind of eye-opening, a very big, sharp learning curve. But then we actually did our second flip together. And this was when the day I resigned was actually the day we closed on our second home. So that was very nerve-wracking, but we ended up actually knocking that one out of the park because I was more involved in the process at that time since I wasn't full-time working, and we were able to make a substantial profit on that second one. And that's when I got the itch to continue moving forward. And the renovation business was basically just supplemental to the flipping business at that point. Wow. So that's where I'm at.
You made a few big jumps that lots of people are so afraid of doing. First of all, jumping into real estate, but also not exactly knowing that that's what you're going to do before you actually left your job.
It's true. It was very nerve-wracking, but I knew that I had always had this fire inside of me. I was tired of working, endless hours for someone else's paycheck. And for me, real estate always seemed like the most common or the most, substantial return on your money. It was the biggest asset you can purchase, and it just made sense for me. And that was the first time that I ever purchased a home, was when I flipped it. So that was even more nerve-wracking because I wasn't sure anything about renovations. I had to learn everything from my husband, Steve, which I did, but we had no cost controls at that time. And it was just really, we were flying by the seat of our pants. We overspent big time. We renovated every corner of that home. And then we actually had a very hard time selling it. So we ended up having to move into the property. And then we actually lived there for about 5 months before we were able to sell it. And like I said, it was nowhere near the profit that we were expecting initially, but it was a learning curve. And I learned from my mistakes and failures on that and was able to carry that into my second property. But always want to face that fear head on, because I feel, if you're sitting in the shadows and hoping that something's going to change in your life and wishing and praying and without trying it and doing it. And then that was just the beginning of the snowball effect, which brought me to where I'm at now, 5-6 years later.
Well, where you're at now is also a very different place as well. Not only did you jump out of your job, get into real estate, become successful in real estate after having a rough start to begin with, and still persisted. And now you moved actually out of Canada and into the United States and Florida. So how was that transition like? And for lots of people out there who goes, you know what, I need to go to the States to make this work, or I need to do something else before I go to the States. Like how did that thought process happen, and how did you make your decision?
Absolutely. Well, Fong, what happened was being in Canada, the price points for real estate was just growing and substantially growing. And then I met JT Fox and I met Polly Kazanowski through obviously JT Fox. And when I decided to do coaching with both of these gentlemen, my whole life transformed and my business sense transformed 100%. My branding did. It went all to JT Fox. And we started to brand our renovation business as Fast Renovations. Before we were just called, basically Steve's father's name was being carried on, but no one knew what we did. And we had always had that same mission, but we were not making any money. We were doing all of the renovation and all of the work, but our trades are making the majority of the money because as a general contractor, it's very hard to, substantially have a good amount of cash flow in your account. And when I first did my first coaching session with JT Fox, he's like, "Why are you guys not flipping properties anymore?" And I said to him straight off, "I don't have the capital." And he goes, "That's what you're doing wrong. You're trying to use your own capital instead of other investors. You guys have the skill level, you have the quality, you have the speed, and that's what your investors want to see." Mind you, this was just the beginning of everything because I had pitched many, many deals to the JT Fox network and I was denied. But it's the persistence that pulled us through, and it's the persistence of building those relationships and also proving our concept, which once we had that first flip under our belt, it just was a natural thing for me. I'd always wanted to live in a warmer climate, number one. And number two, it was just, there was so much potential, and I'm not saying there isn't in Canada, but the price points here were more attractive to me. And sometimes you just have to go where the money is. And I'm not talking just about the investors. I'm also talking about the price points. This is a very highly sought after area. And again, it's the climate for me. And now we've progressed to doing, we're in the middle of 3 property flips currently. As of today, we have 2 others under contract. So it's kind of snowballed in that effect, but this is also going side by side with the coaching that I've received and implementing everything that both of my coaches, JT and Polly, have taught me. That's what's excelled us into this type of, future, 5-6 months later from leaving Canada.
Can you still use the snowball effect when you're not in Canada?
I actually hope not. No, we'll just use the rain or the beach. I'm not sure, but no, I don't miss the snow. I'm not going to miss it at all.
One of your greatest assets is being able to keep things within time, within budget, and still maintain that top quality.
Absolutely.
So what is your secret to be able to maintain those 3 things?
It's putting out fires, Fong, because everything always happens very quickly on the job site. We make sure that we coordinate all the trades. I have all the materials on site before the renovation even starts. And this is the biggest key, especially now with all the challenges that we're facing with COVID and supply, demand, et cetera. I order everything. And I'm telling you, it's like in the garage before we even start demo. And it's also having those relationships with your trades are super important. It's very, very hard in any business to find good quality people. But I would say it's even more challenging to make sure, yes, you're finding the good people, but you're also finding the work ethic and the hard physical labor that a lot of people don't want to do anymore. I have Steve, obviously, he's a big piece to that puzzle. He's taught me everything that I know in terms of the renovation business, but we really do pair very well with each other. I'm more of the relationship builder. He's the executor. So he's able to put out fires fast. And that's what keeps us on time, which is exactly what our investors want to see. Because if you're going over your timeline or you're overspending on that budget, they're not going to be willing to continue to do business with you, or they might be more reluctant to do that. So that's always the highest standard that I hold on that job site, is making sure I hold people accountable. Number one, I pay my trades on time, which is really key. You don't want to keep them, not motivated to show up on that job site. And honestly, the relationship building is probably the most important part. When I moved here, I had to start fresh. I didn't have a team. I had Steve, of course, but I didn't have a tile guy and a plumber and electrician, but those are things that I had to start from ground, but I also had to do that back home. Mm-hmm. So it was more of just starting that outreach and executing, and the momentum is super, super key, because once we got 1, we got 2 more within a week. So it was just very key to make those, phone calls and build those relationships, I would say, are absolutely the most important thing to make sure that you're, on time, on budget, and without ever compromising on quality, because that's super important to us.
Now, you talked about putting out fires a lot. And
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of people out there who's thinking about real estate always has that as a nightmare. They're like, I don't want to get into real estate because I don't want to deal with the plumbing. I don't want to deal with the problems. I don't want to deal with all this other stuff.
Yes.
But the thing is, when it comes to real estate, you kind of have to deal with some of that stuff. And usually those are the most interesting stories. But what's even more interesting is how you overcome them. So is there a big fire that you're able to share with us? And how did you overcome those fires?
And pun intended, our first flip that we did with JT and Polly almost caught fire. And I'm not kidding. We actually had a delivery truck coming and there was electrical wires. It was a very old property in the middle of nowhere. And these electrical wires were going over to a church, which was located right beside the property we're flipping. And the delivery truck backed up into the wires and it shorted out everything, caught on fire, and went to the pole. We were like, first day on demo deliveries. Like I said, making sure I have all the material, but you have to be able to act fast and you have to not freak out over things. Like I said, the relationship building is super important. Things will always change. Sometimes the design changes on the fly, because when you open up walls, you might see something that you never thought was going to be there. And now everyone wants that open concept feel, obviously new kitchens, new bathrooms. And if you're not able to prep, I guess first of all, the tradesman, but also, in your head, what you're kind of coming up against, then you're going to be basically shooting yourself in the foot. You can't expect things to go smooth. They never do in any business, let alone real estate, especially when you're renovating older homes. But I would just say, forge through it, because once you overcome one obstacle, I can guarantee you there's going to be 10 or 15 more. But to put out, like, I guess the fires, if you will, I think it's super important to make sure you have a budget in mind and you stick to that budget, because the demand and the supply issues right now with all these materials and the cost increases, I mean, if you're not pre-planning that and not pre-ordering it, you're going to run into delays, and you don't want that. You don't want to be waiting to list a property and waiting on an appliance, for instance. You got to make sure that you are well ahead of the game. And that's my biggest, I guess, advice for anybody that's looking at putting out fires, especially in real estate. Be organized.
There are lots of other people who are thinking, well, that's good, easy for her to say. She's in Florida. She can make those deals happen, right? But then you've made it happen in both countries, in Canada and in the States. So what are the fundamentals? What are the basic things that people have to follow? They may or may not make as much money in certain locations, but as long as they follow these steps, they're able to at least profit and do well.
As my coach says, you can't overpay for the property. When you're a property flipper, you make the money when you purchase the property and not when you sell it. And when you're going through that renovation and through that rehab, again, you have to stay on budget. It's super easy to overspend. You have to. So that's the first part. You cannot purchase the property for more than it's worth. And, the numbers game is a huge thing. You got to put in a ton of offers. This was something I was doing, I would say 1/4 of a scale that what I'm doing here, which is why my output is actually tripled. I was only making, maybe 1 or 2 phone calls a day. Here, I'm making anywhere between 10 to 15 offers a day. And I'm following up with those relationships. And these are people now that I've gotten, 2 completed. I'm sharing with these new relationships that I may have not yet met in person, that don't know who we are, what we're capable of. So it's proving your concept is super, super important. Don't overpay, like I said, for the property. And when you're in that renovation, you got to stick on budget. But the other fundamentals, again, and I'm going to repeat this because I just think it's so super important, is that relationship building. I was able to do that in Canada and I was also here. And it's the same, like, it doesn't change. You got to call people. You got to tell them what you're looking for. You have to, of course, make sure that you're buying the property correctly. Don't overpay for it. Remove that renovation budget from that purchase price. And you have to get used to hearing no. People are going to get mad. They're going to get offended. But they have to also understand that if they don't accept your offer and then this property is sitting on the market for 60, 90 days, they're going to come back to you. They are. And again, the fundamental, Fong, and I think we both can kind of speak to this, is you got to find the right partners. You know, it's super, super challenging to flip properties with your own capital because you're going to run out of money. That's exactly what happened to me at the beginning before I met JT Fox and everything else, you know, kind of transpired out of that. I was stuck. I didn't know how to make it to that next level. And if you're not seeking out the right coaching, it's a fast track to success. It's not like everyone always says it's going to cost me too much money. But again, taking words right from JT's mouth, it's how much is it going to make you when you invest in coaching? And look at my life. It's completely transformed in 2 years since I've actually, you know, hired them and become a part of this network. And I would have never met you, Fong. So it's all good, right?
All good. Having that network is absolutely very, very vital for people's success because 100%. You can't do everything yourself. And yes. Even though if you think you can, eventually you hit this kind of plateau and you go, okay, now what do I do? Because you're kind of stuck, which is where.
Absolutely.
You mentioned coaching a few times now. And so if somebody has a complete blank slate, they have no idea what they want to get into, they have no idea what the ins and outs are, what would you say is the very first step? Is it to find that coaching first, or is it to learn a little bit about real estate first?
I would say it's to get out of your own head. People are always so afraid to fail that they don't even give themselves an opportunity to try. And that's the biggest thing. I was terrified buying that first house, but I'm like, what else am I going to do with this money at this point? I wanted to own a property. I was renting at that time. I didn't want to buy a property as a single woman. So when I met Steve, it was just kind of an easy transition. But at the same token, I had to get out of my own way because yes, you're spending, when I did that, I was spending, $70,000 of my own money between the down payment and the renovation. So that was nerve-wracking, but that led me ultimately to where I'm at here today. I think coaching is absolutely extremely important, especially if you're lost or you're fearful, because these people have been through these things. Never mind real estate, they're business savvy. So if you're looking at growing a business, you're an entrepreneur, and whether you're in real estate or not, it's going to fast track you to get over that fear, number one, and number two, to your success. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you're diligent and persistent and you have that momentum on your side and you have the right coach, I mean, the sky's the limit. I can't imagine my life right now if I had said no to, the whole coaching and the network that I'm now part of. I can't even imagine where I would be. I wouldn't be here. I know that for a fact.
Well, congratulations on all that success.
Thank you very much.
What would you say would be the entry project for most people to get into?
I would say you got to stay low. I mean, Canada's another, ball game altogether. But at the same token, I would recommend, anything under 400,000, and people are like, where the heck am I going to find a house for 400,000? But even if you have to go a little higher, because this market is crazy, it's a seller's market still. And, people are overpaying for properties, but going back to the fundamentals, you just can't do that. You're going to lose money. And I'm trying to remember the statistic that Paulie taught us. I believe it's something around like 75% of the people that try to flip properties in this business fail, or they lose money. They're not making money. They're breaking even, or they're in a deficit. So I would say stay under that 500,000 mark. Don't look for like that big, huge deal right off the get-go, because you have to prove your concept. And that's what I did wrong at the beginning too. I think one of the first 3 deals that I had pitched was a brand new build. And I was asking for like $1.8 million. Silly. Even though I had the renovation experience and I know Steve was a builder for 25 plus years, it was just not the right decision. Whereas my first deal that they said yes to, we purchased the house for $400,000. We actually had to put $110,000 into it because it needed everything in the kitchen sink, but we actually netted $126,000.
Oh, wow.
So it was something that, you got to make sure you know your numbers. That's super, super important. And if you're pitching those deals to your investors, they want to know, is their money safe? And what are you guaranteeing them? Like, really, what are you going to do to make sure you continue to do this business with those people?
Now, you do these presentations and these deals often. And the thing is, when you're talking to investors, you're talking to a network and a group of people, they don't have a lot of time to sit there and listen to that backstory.
You're right.
So you're only given a few minutes, 2-3 minutes, to kind of really get down to the numbers, get down to the project and what the kind of vision is. So what would you tell people to really focus on? Or is there like a kind of quick Coles notes, step-by-step, kind of here are the top 3 things just to talk about that first? If they're interested, they'll ask you more questions and forget about the backstory kind of thing.
100%.
So what do you focus on?
Yeah. So no one cares about the story. No one cares that, they have pictures in the living room, or like, they do not care about the backstory. They care about the numbers. They care about the location. So the biggest thing is you want to cut to the chase right away. What are you asking for? How much are you asking for? What are the terms? So are you asking for 500,000? I'm also offering, this project at 6% interest rate with a 50-50 split. So you got to tell them the money part is super important because they want to understand what they're looking at. And I always present, and this is, again, I have to give it to JT. He taught me how to do this. You want to present best case, most likely, and also worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. They want to know at the end of the day, what is the worst possible thing that can happen with my money if I invest in these people? What's the most likely case scenario? And what's the best case? I would start with the worst. And I always, my numbers are very conservative. You do not want to stretch your numbers. Like I said, it's very important to understand how you can resell that property and that you know what you're talking about. Research is super important. Get rid of the backstory, present the numbers. What is your ask? Like, are you asking for percentage, 50-50 split? What is the after repair value? And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's of course, after you've rehabbed or renovated the property, what is it worth conservatively? You have to be able to pull up those comps to really understand the area. And again, the best case, worst case, most likely case scenario. And that's it. Mm-hmm. You give them a couple of comps and you just, at that point, they should know who the heck you are. If you've gotten an opportunity to present in front of these people, they should really understand, what you're capable of, but they don't want to hear a story. Mm-hmm. So present the numbers first, present, exactly what your ask is. And then worst case, best case, most likely, and then a tiny little 1 sentence about yourself. You only have one chance to make a first impression. So got to do it fast.
You mentioned a few times about being conservative. Is there a percentage that you kind of use to kind of go, okay, well, if I could sell for 400,000, let's assume that it's, let's say 5% under, and use that number as a base? And same with your renovation costs and all that kind of stuff. Do you have a percentage factor that you put on them?
Great question. So this, I got a hand once again to Uncle Polly, but he's taught us to take the conservative comp in the neighborhood and actually multiply that by 70%.
Oh,
this is a bit higher than what it used to be because of the market. In retrospect, sometimes we can go up to 75, but I don't like to. And what you're doing after that point is you're actually taking off the renovation budget. This is how you buy a property correctly. So it might be like, they're asking 400,000, your ask or your offer might be low 2s. Mm-hmm. But again, you have to look for a motivated seller. They're out there, even though people don't think that they are. And with everything that's going on in this world, a lot of people, losing their jobs, et cetera. I think there's going to be a little bit more deals coming to the surface in the next little while. But again, conservative numbers are going to protect you because that's what it is about at the end of the day. And then in terms of the renovation numbers, what we do is by square footage. Again, Uncle Polly. So you're ranging anywhere from $40 to $55, sometimes $60 with the increase in the materials right now per square foot. So if you're looking for very quick numbers, you just take the square footage of the home and look at the age. You got to look at whether or not, 1960s, 50s, obviously the wiring, the plumbing, all those things are going to be very outdated. I would steer clear of doing properties on that decade for some time until you have a substantial amount of experience to deal with properties like that, especially if you're looking to put out or not put out as many fires, because you will find many more obstacles to come in older homes. But yeah, you just multiply those numbers by the square footage and then look at the area. You got to look at the comps. Like the other houses, might be way over renovated than what you're going to be putting into the house, but it's going to give you that benchmark to know what kind of style and flair these homes need to have in order to sell. And everyone knows you need open concept, and kitchens and bathrooms sell. Those are the biggest ticket items. So just use your square footage number and that'll give you a quick estimate of what that renovation should cost.
Now, are there types of properties or types of problems that you see offhand that basically tells you, no, I'm not buying these properties. I'm not going to deal with it at all because I know it's going to become more problems later.
Very good question, Fong. So for me personally, I am looking for velocity of money. I am looking for speed of implementation. Fast renovations is not by accident. I don't want to get into a property where I have to start like expanding. I don't want to add square footage, especially again, with the times right now. Permitting is a nightmare. So that's the biggest thing. I don't look for properties that I need to add square footage to in order to, sell that home for what I need to sell it for. Okay, so that's the number one factor. And I would just say something that's like, if you've never done a flip before and it is like in the worst shape ever, it doesn't have drywall, maybe it needs a new roof, it literally needs everything, I would steer clear of a property like that. You want to do something that, especially at the beginning, that's mostly cosmetic. Removing walls is really not that big of a deal because a lot of them are, make sure you hire a contractor and an engineer. I will say that first, but a lot of them are not load bearing. So it's very easy to take that out and then re-drywall it, et cetera. And that'll give you, that open concept feel, and it's not expensive. So look for something that, you can add flooring to, paint, update the kitchen, even if you paint the cabinets, master bathroom, like I said, and just making sure that you're choosing color palettes that are aesthetically pleasing to the mass majority. Because at the end of the day, you want to appeal to as many buyers as possible. So I would steer clear of older homes or any homes that you have to definitely add some square footage onto and builds. Right now, I wouldn't go into building so much, but that's me personally. I just want a faster turnaround.
So how fast are usually your turnarounds then?
Great question. So we just completed 2 homes simultaneously. One was 1,500 square feet. The other one was under 2,000 in 28 days.
Oh,
both of them. Mind you, they were around the corner from each other, which helps because we could always, hop back and forth. But I know that's very fast. And that's the thing though, we don't ever compromise on quality because at the end of the day, your brand is attached to your flips. And you don't want to cut corners because then agents are not going to want to work with you because their sign's going in that lawn and that's a representation of them. So if they have buyers coming through and they're like, this is off, this is off, this is off, or this doesn't work, they're not going to want to represent you moving forward. Mm-hmm. So yes, it was very fast, but again, that's why coordination, materials on site are so important when you're turning over these properties on a very fast basis. And again, my investors, it's super important for me to stick to what I'm telling them and what I'm presenting initially. How long is it going to take them to get their money back? Mm-hmm. And I want to stick to that renovation timeline. I mean, you never can predict how fast you're going to sell a property. One of those 2 is already sold. It sold in 2 days, but it was a great location and we priced it right. Yeah. Back to those fundamentals. You got to price the property correctly when you're trying to sell it. Don't try and overcompensate for getting more money out of the property. Price it to sell so it sells quickly.
Cool. So within 5 months of being in Florida, not only did you transition, but you renovated 2 homes and you got one of them sold already.
Yes.
And then you were also, before that, you had to build that team.
Yes, sir.
So and relationships are so important. How do you build that team so fast and still be confident that that team is a trustworthy team, a team that you can rely on, and you know that they'll kind of pull out all the stops to get it done?
Another awesome question. I made sure that the first thing I did when I arrived here was start building those relationships and looking for these trades. I didn't have any homes under contract before I moved here, and it actually took me almost 3 months to get something. But imagine how many no's I had to hear for over those 3 months in order for me to get these 3 deals. Okay. And I have the 3rd is actually underway right now. We're well underway. It was building those relationships, but asking people. And I interviewed them all. I spoke to them on the phone. I told them who we were, what we were looking for, what my expectations were, because this area, unfortunately, is somewhat known for people not showing up and people being on Florida time because they're by the beach. It's nice weather. I made sure that I told them what I wasn't looking for first. Mm-hmm. And all those objections that I might hear when they don't show up on that property, I said that to them and made sure that they gave me, no, I don't do that. I will show up for you. And so far, they've all done that. I met them all in person. I got to see all of their work. And because I have such a strong understanding now of quality and obviously the construction side of things, I'm able to speak to them in a way where they were not really expecting that to come from a woman. And I will say that. And then having Steve there, it just kind of adds like another flair because they want to show up for us. And that's the thing. They want to, and I pay them. You got to pay your trades what they're worth. And yes, the budget's super important, but at the end of the day, you're looking for quality and for people that show up. So hold them high to those expectations, build those relationships right away, because you can't kind of work backwards. You got to find people that you can trust, because this is your deal at the end of the day. And if you can't trust them to go to that job site, even if you're not there babysitting them, then you have the wrong people. You have to continue to look for those A players and fire the B and C. 100%.
Awesome. So you built that great team for your projects and what you do. How did you build that network of people that you can kind of present to?
You mean the investors or just the actual trades?
Well, how do you get into an investor group? How did you find those people? How did you get the network of people that you can actually go, hey, this is what I've got.
Yeah. I think, like I said, when I first got here, and I'll talk about the trades just for one more minute, I started to go around to individual suppliers. Like the big box stores are super important. And that was another thing, like going there and seeing who actually is, there bright and early in the morning. Do they have a dirty truck? Do they look like they're put together? Stuff like that, just so you can start to understand, are these people actually quality, or are they just like, showing up with garbage all over their truck? And all those things are super important, right? Because those are the type of, skills and atmosphere that they're going to bring to your job site. There was that piece. And then when I went to individual suppliers, I started asking them, give me your best tile guy. I have a lot of work coming up. I'm looking to establish a long-term relationship with these people. And if you can keep the consistent team busy as a renovator and as a general contractor, why would they want to look for other business? If you, like I said, of course, you want to make sure that they're quality, but they want to work for you, because now you're starting to establish a team atmosphere on the job site, where you're all working cohesively together, which is super important. I got to give Steve props for that, because, Steve always helps them out in some way, shape, or form, because he's been doing this for such a long time. So you really want to find a quality general contractor too, that you can rely on, that's been doing this for a really long time, because that helps you put out those fires a lot faster. The investor part of things, it's saying yes, honestly, and overcoming that fear of the unknown. And you might feel like initially when you're being sold a coaching that, yes, it's a sales tactic or whatever you want to call it, but how are you ever going to know what's going to transpire in your life without coaching? And when I said yes to JT Fox, I was actually at a women's speaker event. It had nothing to do with real estate. And I thought at that point, when I said yes to this coaching, that I was going to become this speaker and I was going to do health coaching and all these other things. And look where I'm at now. I'm back into real estate. I'm back into flipping, and my renovation business is booming. So you never know what's going to transpire. And through JT Fox is how I met Polly Kazanowski, who is just an incredible real estate coach. And then all the other investors and the founders and everyone else, including yourself, Fong, that I've met through this network, is irreplaceable. These are high quality people. They understand what business is. They understand the challenges that entrepreneurs go through. But again, if you listen to their coachings and you take their advice and you implement what they're saying, you're fast tracking your life to success. You're not just like hoping and wishing that things are going to transpire for you, or learning off of YouTube for free, because it's not the same in any way, shape, or form. It's not.
Yeah, everybody goes, oh, I'm an expert now. I can go and learn from online.
Yeah, or I flipped one house and now I know what I'm doing for life. No, it's not true. I learned something new on every property.
You mentioned about the health, fitness, and all that kind of stuff. I know that's one of your other passions in life.
Yes,
how important is it for you to be healthy and also taking care of your body, being in shape? Yes. In real estate?
I mean, super important. I think a lot of people don't realize that I'm actually doing a lot of physical labor on a daily basis too, which helps expedite that project, but I want to. Mm-hmm. I'm not the type of person. I do my computer work and my outreach and my sales calls bright and early because I want to go to that job site and I want to be hands-on and I want to understand, build those relationships with the trades, but also assist in any way, shape, or form I can, because at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your project, it's your deal. So if you're not executing and being able to work hard, then you're basically shooting yourself in the foot. Like I said, health is probably the most important thing in my life, 100%. I wake up every morning at 5:00 and I go to the gym prior to me hitting the job site. And then of course I make my sales calls in between there. But here's the thing, you can't go and do physical work if you're not physically fit. And, when you're dragging your butt and you're not, eating well and you're not working out and staying in shape, your mind suffers. And that's the biggest thing. You got to be sharp. You got to be on top of it. And you have to be willing to direct your life in a way that's going to make sense for you. Without your health, you really have nothing. And it's true. If I was sick right now, do you think I'd be able to go to the job site or make sales calls or, basically do anything with my life but sit on the couch? No. Right. So it was just always part of who I was as a woman, a human being. And I never wanted to waver from that. That's actually the 6-figure job that I left. I was working at a health club as a sales manager. Wow. And I was just like, the stress was not worth it for me anymore. And again, I had always had that entrepreneurial spirit, but even that without your health, and I wasn't healthy there because I was so stressed out all the time. I had said to myself, I had to make a conscious decision to put my health over at that point, my paycheck, but it ended up being the best decision I've ever made. And that was, like I said, 6.5 years ago at this point.
Kind of ironic how in order to become more healthy, you had to quit being a health
club. I know, it's just odd. I thought that maybe you'd be the most healthy you've ever been, but it was actually kind of the opposite, but that's okay. I learned a lot from that job for sure.
So people now have heard about their first steps getting into real estate, some of the secrets about becoming successful in renovations and whatnot. What would you say for somebody who goes, working out is too hard. I can't get up. I can't go and do this. I can't go and do that. What's the easiest way of getting into maintaining a routine on a consistent basis?
Just drop the darn excuses. I mean, if I could, tell you one thing is that as a health coach, because I definitely still do that on a side to a select group of women, I can't handle excuses. Everybody has the same amount of time during the day. And it just boils down to what's important to you. Like I said, without your health, you have literally not much at all. And you really have to focus on that. Just get rid of the damn excuses. I think you really need to look at your nutrition, because whatever you're putting inside of your body is going to be a reflection on how you're feeling on the outside and looking, for that matter. So things about getting up and getting moving, just start somewhere. You don't have to go 6-7 times a week. Just go once, then twice, maybe 3. And it doesn't have to be a long period of time. It's just some type of movement to get that body up and out and whatever else. And I would say, as a woman, don't be afraid to lift weights. Seriously, don't be afraid of it. Cardio is necessary, but if you are looking to, really amp up your health and your fitness, you got to pick up a weight. You have to.
Awesome. Good words to live by.
Yes.
If you had an opportunity to speak on the world stage, people they're all quiet, they're listening to the great Cara. What's that message that you want everybody to remember you as?
You only live once. And I would say 100%, if you're not willing to chase your dreams, I can't stress to you enough how important it is to just get moving, get started, and don't let fear step in your way, because that's going to hold you back for the rest of your life. Without your tenacity to get up and really chase after what you want, I feel like you're not going to be fulfilled in your life. And I had always wanted what I currently have in my life now. And I don't know if I was manifesting it, for many, many moons, but I always thought where I wasn't enough. I wasn't fulfilled. Why can't I, break through that barrier of achieving success, achieving wealth, and just achieving, happiness? Yes, health is super important, but those dreams are there for a reason. And I think that you 100% need to go after them, because at the end of the day, no one can do it for you. That's all there is to it. You got to go for it. Don't let fear and failure stand in your way, because that will control your life. And I promise you, if you continue to move forward and absolutely be persistent about what you want out of your life, you will get everything that you deserve.
Awesome. Good words to follow up on. Before I let you go, I got 5 quick questions for you just for fun.
Okay. Rapid fire.
First question, if you were in the Olympics, which event would you like to win the gold medal in?
The javelin.
Have you thrown?
I used to play baseball, so I would think that I would be pretty good at that. Yeah, I've never thrown a javelin.
I wouldn't relate baseball to javelin, but that would be very
yeah, that's what I would want to win in.
Awesome. You're on a road trip. It's a long road trip. Okay?
Yeah.
And there's one song stuck in your car that plays over and over again. What song is that you don't mind listening to? It's
called The Island by Armin van Buuren. It was part of my wedding song. It's so good. You should listen to it. It's so good.
Will do. This road trip of yours, you get to pick 3 people to come with you.
Okay.
Dead, alive, celebrity, whatever. Who would you want to come on this road trip with you?
I would pick my husband, Steve, my mother, Linda, and who else would I choose? And Murphy from Murphy's Law. You know Murphy's Law, where everyone's like, oh, it's Murphy's Law. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. Yeah, Murphy, I'd like to slap him upside the head. So I would take Murphy.
All right. So Murphy shows up earlier.
Yes.
They're like, you know what? I need to know a little bit more about you before we go on this long road trip. But they're hungry. So yes. What are you prepared from?
For Murphy's dinner, pizza.
Do you have a hidden talent?
I can slap him with the pizza. Pardon?
Do you have a hidden talent that nobody really knows?
Do I have a hidden talent that no one knows? I mean, I think most people know I feel like I'm very good at building relationships. I know that's not necessarily quote unquote a talent, but no, I don't think I do have a hidden talent that no one knows that I know of.
And my last question is, what is success like? But before that, give me a number between 1 to 3.
3.
1, 2, 3. So how is success like bedhead?
Say again?
How is success like bedhead?
Oh my gosh, because success is all over the place. It's messy. It's never what you expect. But once you comb that out, it'll be smooth sailing just for a short period of time until you go to bed the next night. And then you wake up all over again. It's constantly putting out those obstacles. So that's what success is.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Very well done. If anybody wants to get in touch with you to learn more about what you do or work with you or invest with you, what's the best way?
You can reach me on Facebook at Cara Whiteway, and also you can hit up on my YouTube, Fast Renovations, and those are the 2 best ways to get a hold of me. I have an Instagram too. It's Train with Cara, so that's more of the health side of things, but Facebook is definitely the way, Cara Whiteway.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, your stories, and your advice. It's always great talking to you and learning from you, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fong.
And until next time, she is Cara Whiteway. My name is Fong Chua. Today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.